something that's going to have a $24,000 a year payment on it, right? That's like $2,000 a month. You're like, well, what the fuck's going to cost that much? A fucking house. That's what. But let's say that that's the thing, right? Now, if you're going to have a $2,000 a month payment, you're probably going to have either a 10% average dividend distribution from probably $200,000 or $300,000 to get, well, no, you would need like 20 grand. So yeah, 10%. So you'll need like $300,000, which would be like $30,000 worth of dividends, where you can take the 20,000 or 24,000 and put it towards the stock and still have change left over. Or you're looking at something closer to like 8%, where you might have to have $600,000 or $700,000 in the stocks, where you're still getting that $30,000 or $24,000 paid out to you so that you can pay on the cash loan. But if you have 800, 900, $1 million, and you're leveraging that towards probably for $2,000 a month, probably a $250,000 piece of property, and then you're making the notes on the cash stock. You have the deed to the property, you have the loan agency that is going to give you the cash to own the property, the stock that's going to pay for the loan, so you're not paying for nothing out of pocket whether you go to work or not. And then the house has a free and clear deed that you can, guess what, mortgage for 50% of the value of the house. Use that mortgage to either pay off the loan or go and leverage it towards another property that turns into a rental property, where that rental property will pay for the mortgage for the house and potentially cover the some of the cash loan that you took out already, which means that all of this stuff is paying for itself, so you're not paying for nothing out of your own pocket, which puts you in a position where whatever profits you are getting that has nothing to do with this transaction, it is not being dwindled away by the asset that you just acquired. So Michael, you're fantastically correct about the fact that you should always buy more assets if you can afford it, but you're not supposed to waste all of your cash, all of your liquidatable cash, to own land, because you can't sell land today. It takes like 60 to 90 days to sell land if you have a buyer right now. And if you had, like, for example, on Thursday, I had an emergency. I was late to the podcast. If I would have had to sell land to take care of that emergency, I would still be out there. I would have had to walk back. You see what I'm saying? So you got to have cash accessible, emergency fund. You got to have standard of living capital so that you don't have to worry about where your money's coming from to pay your bills or put food in your stomach or keep your clothes clean, replace your clothes or what have you. Then if you're going to leave the house, whether you're going to travel, whether you're going to go take care of business, you got to have capital gains for that. And then you have to have an investment portfolio that can pay for the cash loan, that pays for the enhancements of asset acquisition, which is a 3-step process. So for a lot of y'all that didn't follow that, we have a budget show that y'all got to go back and see, a investment show, that several investment shows that y'all got to go back and see, and then you catch up to us with the stocks that we got going on right now. So what I also want you guys to know is that next week, Tuesday, I'm going to give you the rundown for August. So we're going to talk about all of the stocks that are able to be invested in August. That's going to be part of our dividend rotation strategy. You see most of those stocks up here at the top of the screen with the most recent values for those stocks. I try my best to update those every day during the market days at the end of the business day, so that you guys know or remember which stocks we're doing and around about what value they are. This does not automatically update itself. So the last time I looked at the stock, that's what I got. That's what it was. It might not be that way right now while the show is live, and it might not be that way in the morning when the stock market opens, but that's pretty much what it looked like by the end of business day. Close to it by a few pennies. Now, again, tomorrow we're going to be talking about all the stocks that Trump's got going on, or some that are similar to Trump's portfolio. Today, we're going to be talking about the student loans and how students are being asked out with student loans. So if y'all didn't know, the bill got passed like 17 days ago, and people are not going to be happy if you're still going to college. So Gen Zs are going to feel like shit. Everybody else who's already gotten out of college and they have a shit ton of debt, they're like, well, it is what it is. But for this particular place, it is a rough scenario for those up and comers. For any parents right now, middle-aged people that have kids that are planning on going to college, you know, you're in your 40s and 50s, your kids are almost 18 or just about 18, or getting ready to go to college, and this shit just happened before, and now you're looking at, fuck, where's my kids' tuition? Or if they were in college and they were planning on going for their masters or their bachelor, not their bachelor's, but their master's or their PhD, and this shit happened, yeah, just put a grinding halt on what you thought you was going to do with your college life, right? Michael says the future of first-time buyers will be tiny homes. Actually, you're right. We're looking at right now some of the smallest houses that we have come across in a long period of time. You're talking about 0.25 acres. You're talking about 900 square feet of land, and the house is like 2,000 square feet or 1,500 square feet. And a 750 square foot apartment these days is running at like $3 per square foot almost, which is a lot of money when houses are being sold at like $55 and $75 per square foot on a low end, and you're paying $3 per square foot for rent. Like that's that's a lot. That's a lot. Over the course of the year, you could have just bought that damn place. You know, you could have bought a bigger place for the same price as the rent on that place, on the smaller place. So yeah, building codes are changing, which is allowing people to put many homes on plots of land as long as the utilities are hooked up, and you know, sometimes there's accessibility to multiple driveways. So you could have 4 different mini homes backed up to one another with no seemingly backyard, and a carport scenario next to each one of them, almost like trailer homes. And you could take a 1 acre piece of property and put like 6 or 8 mini homes on it if you line them up correctly, and rent them bad boys out as efficiencies. He said, kids' tuition, join the military. They said something about drafting these damn kids instead of giving them the California achievement test, that they were going to be giving them military placement exams. Or in addition to the California achievement test, that they were going to be giving them military placement exams. And with the way these kids is able to get down on Call of Duty, boy, they going to get drafted. They going to get drafted. Simulators counts as field training these days. Ask a pilot how many hours of simulated flight that they had, and then ask a child how many years of simulated combat that they had. You're gonna be like, these kids is ready for it. Especially the ones that's willing to pull the trigger on a whim. They're like, it moved. Pop pop. LAPD. Michael said 15 acres, then 204 square feet per person. Actually, that 1.5 acres and 240 square feet per person sounds about right, because you're going to have an efficiency. They're going to have a toilet, probably a tub, maybe just a shower next to the toilet, and then the kitchen, and probably not even have a wall or partition between the toilet and the kitchen. And then if there is a wall, it'll separate the living room from the toilet or the kitchen, not both. And the living room is the bedroom. That's going to be like the whole thing. And they're going to call that either an efficiency or a 1-bedroom home, mini houses. That's how it is. So it's crazy. And they can charge $800 a month for that little piece of crap. The 240 square foot piece of property, they can charge you like $3 per square foot, like I was telling you, which would be over $600, $700 a month for that little efficiency. I'm telling y'all, things is getting tight around here. But if you were ever thinking about graduating or any type of professional school, you guys are going to need to hear this. He says studio homes. Man, that's a studio neighborhood. What do you mean? You said studio home. That's You got 13 houses in your backyard. Which they going down, boy. They going down. And folks that can't afford, they'll take that snap. They'll take it. They'll take it. Single person, especially if you get you a single person on VA benefits that they could sleep in that instead of sleeping on the sidewalk, they'll take that shit. They'll take it. They'll get them off the street. But when you think about that model, you ask yourself, why do they have like 3 to 5% of the population homeless when really you could do a whole bunch of mini homes under a government contract and take over a large quantity of land and have an entire neighborhood of homeless people that is away from everybody else, that doesn't cause any issues, and turn a bunch of money off of that? Section 8. I don't understand it, because they got grants for it. They got grants for it. They got grants in every country around the world that covers development for at-risk communities and low-income communities. So I don't understand, with the rise of mini homes, why ain't nobody with big old plots of land ain't thinking about putting 20 mini homes per acre and just covering their 100 acres with like a whole neighborhood full of low-income housing. Just, if you watch and like, subscribe, ask your neighbor, why ain't you doing this, Ed? We could be making a shit ton of money off of Section 8. And that's guaranteed checks from Section 8. You make more money off of Section 8 rent vouchers, HUD rent vouchers, than what you do off of the average middle class worker who only can pay you as long as they still got their job. Because Section 8, as long as the government still got money, you're getting paid. But if that employee lose their job, Section 8 don't lose their job. If that employee lose their job, if they change jobs, if that, whatever the case may be, if they get downsized or whatever the case may be, they can't afford to pay your rent no more. But Section 8, as long as the tenant is still living in the house, they can keep paying for it. That's guaranteed money right there. Y'all got to think about that. Stop being greedy and start being resourceful. Now, the government, I want to tell y'all again, the government had just signed that bill into law, that big, beautiful bill that completely dismantle your plans. If y'all have plans about going to college, doing all kinds of great stuff here in America, we're talking about the end of critical funding sources that millions of aspiring doctors, lawyers, and researchers have counted on for decades to make their careers happen. Now, this isn't some minor interest rate hike or a small change to a repayment plan. For many of you watching, this could be the end of the road for your career ambitions. A closed door, a canceled dream. Because on July 4th, Trump signed that H.R. 1, officially known as the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, into law, like I told you guys about last week. And it barely scraped through Congress, like I told you guys last week. And it needed the vice president to break the tie in Senate. It was serious. This law represents the single most dramatic overhaul of federal student aid system that we have seen in a generation. They already destroyed the Department of Education. Look at what's going on now, because it touches everything. Undergraduate loans, repayment, even Pell Grants. But the most earth-shattering changes are aimed squarely at graduate and professional students. Professional students used to be called career students. Those students who go to school for the sake of going to school because they live off of the grant money, the loan money, the I can't think of the other ones, because you have grant loans and I want to say sponsorships, but it's the other one. Because there's three types of you've got the Pell Grant from the government, then you've got grants and loans, and with subsidized loans and unsubsidized loans, and then you've got the other quantity of cash that you get from other people who donate to your education because you're smart, right? That's what happens. I forgot the name of it off the top of my head. Clarify for me, somebody, if y'all remember what it's called. But it contributes to your free ride. So as long as you're smart, career students or professional students, they go to college just to get paid, right? Now the government has taken a sledgehammer to the financial bridge that carried millions of people into advanced careers, leaving a gap that many will find impossible to cross. And I got to tell you, when I was a career student, scholarship. Thank you. Thank you, Michael. I could not think of scholarship to save my life. I'm like, grant, loan, the other thing with the S, scholarship. That's what it was. It's been so long since I got one. I finished college in 2018. I can't remember the last time, you know. But when I was going to college from 2010 to 2018, I was making like 60 grand a year as returns, as refunds. I was getting bank off of college. And if I would have been putting my money wisely, where I'm telling people to put their money now, it's 60 grand a year, and I didn't need that. I could have literally and back to what I was talking about earlier today about standards of living. Your standard of living is not how much you waste on a daily basis. The standard of living is how much you need to cover your bare necessities. So your rent, your utilities, if you've got transportation, food, clothes, maintenance of clothes, stuff to that effect, bare necessity, standard of living. Outside of eccentric spending, some people in some areas of the United States, honest to God, can live off of $20,000 a year or less. It is only when you're financing new cars, financing new houses that are expensive houses, not the bare necessity house. You might want to get 5 bedrooms in case your family comes over for the holidays, but it's only you and one other person. So you could have did good with a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom, but because you wanted to be bougie, you went got this big ass house with this big ass yard, and now you're paying this big ass quantity of money that you can't afford to pay. That's not what we're talking about. Instead of you buying a car that you can actually afford to drive in, you're buying this big body whatever so that you could put all your friends in and enjoy ride and burn gas, but nobody chips in on your gas. That's not what we're talking about. So all of that is different from standard of living. So your base standard of living, a lot of people can do it. $20,000, $25,000 a year, and they're good. The rest of the money that they make, they waste it. That's why people can buy cigarettes all the time, buy cases of beer all the time, bottles of liquor all the time, gamble, fantasy football, entertainment, subscriptions, memberships, travel, vacation, all of this extra money that you're wasting, because technically, if you take all of that luxury away, you really only have like $20,000 or $30,000 at the most worth of stuff that you have to pay for 2 people. Think about that. Now, if you're making that kind of money off of a stock, or if you're making that kind of money off your student loans or your financial education, you don't need for nothing else. Everything that you need, you got, right? It's when you're wasteful that you don't have enough and ends don't meet, right? So you got to really only spend what you need and then save what you don't need. So when you need more than what you have, you got extra somewhere that you can go pull from and go put towards that. That's one of the things that I was talking about earlier. But when we start talking about these student loans, we're going to break down exactly what this law does and how completely crazy it rewrites the rules for funding your education. So we'll cover the eliminations of the most important loans for the graduates, detail the new draconian borrowing caps that will create huge funding gaps, and explore the overhaul of the repayment system that rips away safety nets that have been placed for years for us to benefit from. This isn't a proposal, it's a new reality. So if you've ever dreamed of getting a master's, a PhD, a medical degree, or a law degree, you need to understand what just happened a few weeks ago. So your future just could very well depend on the knowledge that you may not have right now. So let's get right into it. The centerpiece of this entire overhaul, the part that will cause the most immediate, profound damage, is the complete elimination of the Grad Plus loan program for graduate and professional students. This change is set to take effect on July 1st, 2026, which is next summer. So if you're going to use it for this fall, you better take your behind over there and go get it right now and get the other one for the spring and probably get one for the summer by June so that come the 1st of July, whatever you can't get, it's already gone. You feel me? Get what you can. It wasn't just another option because I told you guys about this, that he said during his campaign in September that he was going to get rid of this, and y'all voted for him anyway. So don't get pissed off right now, 6 months after you made this decision. He said he was going to do this. He also said he was going after the adult industry, and you see that the adult industry is phasing out where state by state adult content on the internet is being outlawed in secrecy. You're going to start finding yourself hard up for finding OnlyFans content. Watch what you see. Now, the federal government offers a base amount of funding through direct unsubsidized loans right now. That's up to about $20,500 a year for a grad student. But let's be honest, for most graduate programs in this country, $20,500 doesn't even come close to covering tuition, let alone fees, books, and the actual cost of living. So think about it. The average cost for master's degrees can easily hit $50,000 to $60,000 a year at a private university. For law or medical school, you're looking at a figure that can be pushing past $100,000 a year once you factor in living expenses in a big city. The direct unsubsidized loan covers a tiny fraction of that. So how did students bridge the massive gap before? For years, the answer was Grad Plus loan. It was the financial workhorse of graduate school. So its best feature was that it let students borrow up to the full cost of attendance as determined by the school minus any other aid. If you owed the school, said the something to the magnitude of say $80,000 a year, and you attended and you got the $20,000 unsubsidized loan, you could borrow the remaining $59,500 with the Grad Plus loan. It's what made expensive but valuable degrees possible for people who didn't come from a wealthy family. So as of now, you're looking at July 1st of 2026, it's going to be gone, wiped from the books and canceled. And this single act will create immediate funding crisis for almost every aspiring graduate student in America. Michael said, want to be cheaper to go to a trade school over college? College is like digging a hole and 30 years to get out of it versus trade school making money in 9 months or less. Most high-paying jobs make it a stipulation to employment that you have that piece of paper from a four-year institution. Even though the four-year institution does not give you on-the-job training for the career that you want. It'll give you the degree that you're looking for, but the degree that you're looking for doesn't have the years of experience in the field that you want to work in. Notice, for example, biology degree, dentist, doctor, nurse, veterinarian, orthopedic, gynecologist. I can keep going, listing all of the careers that would prefer you had a medical degree or a biology degree, right? Genetics degree, right? Now, anybody who took a biology course in their life, you do not know how to take a blood sample from your biology class. You do not know how to remove a cyst from your biology class. You do not know how to administer meds from a biology class. You don't learn this stuff from a genetics class. What you learn that from is doing your rotations in med school, which, by the way, you need the biology degree to get into med school. So to get the on-the-job training, you got to get a piece of paper that says that you paid for 4 years of education before you can get the on-the-job training, where again, slavery, you have to do an internship that is usually an unpaid internship to shadow somebody and get the on-the-job experience after you get the degree. That's what they call hands-on experience, right? Now, trade school, welding, probation officer, cop, trade school. Yeah, I'm gonna talk shit about the police. Yeah, trade school. What the hell do they do at police academy? They learn how to arrest you, cuff you, mace you, potentially interrogate you, tase you, not necessarily in that order. They're probably gonna mace you, tase you after they handcuff you, kick you a couple times, hit you with a billy club, then interrogate you. And once you remember to scream lawyer, that's when the exercise stops. But they don't teach law in police academy, which is why police officers don't know shit about the law. They have to go to their laptop in their car and look up the law. That's why it takes them 45 minutes to give you a ticket, because they have to find what they're charging you for after they take all your information out of your car. You don't get on-the-job training. Police officers should know just as much about the law as the guys from CSU. CSI Miami Special Victims Unit. You know what I mean? The cops should know, like, this ain't gonna stick, man. We don't even need to worry ourselves with pulling this guy over, because this charge ain't gonna stick. You know, they gotta know, but they don't know. They know how to put the uniform on. They know how to argue with you. Look at all those First Amendment audit videos. But this is what we're saying. So trade schools, fantastic. I'm not going to down a trade school. You can get the same experience in a community college that you can get from a private college. It's cheaper. It just has less respect. You can get on-the-job training from a trade school that you're not going to get from a private college, but it's less prestigious because big business partners with private universities. If they make it a requirement that you have to go through the university to get to the business, that's why the school makes its money. And every person that walks out of that school and becomes successful puts prestige on the school, because they're going to say, since they went to this school, they were able to be successful in that opportunity. But it had shit to do with that school. The drive of the person is why that person was successful. Not because they went to that school, because you can name a large quantity of people that went to the exact same school and went to prison. Violent crimes, drugs, trafficking, everything under the embezzlements, Wall Street scams. Come on now. White collar crimes. Come on now. We don't talk about that though. So, those individuals that go to college, and I tell you guys, I tell all my students this, when you're planning on going to college, the first thing you have to do is you need to find out what the hell you're trying to do with yourself after you get out of college. Then you want to line your education up with that type of job. Where right now in high school, you are trying to find internships that you can do while you're under your parents' income, where you can go and work for these people and go to school, get your years of experience in, get your community service in, fulfill all your credit hours, so that by the time you get that bachelor's degree, you can hit the ground running and go into the career of your choice. But if you just take tests until you graduate, when you graduate, there's a gap between when you graduate and when you get a job, because that's when you realize, oh crap, I still need 5 years of experience on the job, and I've been in college for 6 years to get my bachelor's degree, 150% completion time, and I did not do 1 hour of on-the-job training. That's when you feel like an idiot. College was a waste of money. unless you take that money and invest it and start making profits so that by the time you walk out of college, you ain't got that much money to spend. Some of these private lenders are going to have student loans far higher than what the student loans are right now. Right now, student loans are between 4 and 8%, which is just like the SBA loans that are under 15%, where if you were investing in some of the stocks and bonds and stuff that we were talking about that are generating between 15 and 25% interest, and a dividend rotation strategy that we just calculated today, we're going to be talking about it next week, Tuesday, at about a 35% return on investment, which is a lot. A lot. That's a lot. Especially if the loan that you have is 15% or 8% and you're getting a 32% return. The difference between what you borrow versus what you're making is the profit. You could take your dividends and pay on your student loan and get a tax deduction off of the loan, but the money you put on the loan is a tax deduction because the investment went towards a debt. That's double dipping and tip. Students, that we're not taught that in finance class. We're not taught that in business class. They got accounting classes, you got business and finance classes, you got business management classes, but not one of those classes teach you how to spend your money wisely from your education. It's just give all your money to the teacher, show up and get you a piece of paper. Michael says it's the person with drive that gets ahead in life, and he is the captain of his ship. And that person sometimes doesn't even have to go to college. Now, the government has essentially turned off the main spigot, leaving just a trickle from the direct unsubsidized loans. And they're unsubsidized loans because back in the day, we had subsidized loans. And the difference between an unsubsidized loan and a subsidized loan is that a subsidized loan has no interest until 6 months after your last day of college, which is fantastic because if you're in college for 6 years, you have no interest on your loan for 6 years. It doesn't matter if it's a 15% interest rate after you graduate, because if you take out the loan at the beginning of your education and for 6 years you're sitting on that money, if you invested that money somewhere, you're making 100% profit off of it before you have to pay the first dollar back. The day before you graduate, you pay back the entire loan, keep the interest. You're balling right now. Nobody taught us that. If I was doing that with the 60 plus grand a year that I was getting, I'm talking about 20, 30 grand a semester that I was getting after the fact, that was the payout after the loan. That wasn't just the principal, that was the net. That's what I got after the fact. I was walking away with 60 grand. I was getting 20 grand a semester direct deposits. My banks were loving me. They was like, fuck, what's going on with this guy? University deposit. I'm like, hey, gotta make ends meet. And I made it a point to only spend, $10,000 a month for 3 months. And you say that's a lot of money, but shit, your tuition was freaking $5. So that's why they're saying this is really gonna hurt people. Broken and broke is what's gonna happen right now. The implications aren't just significant, they're catastrophic for countless people, for entire professions that depend on a steady stream of highly educated graduates. So the end of the grad plus loan is like a bomb going off in the world of higher education finance. This program was at the core of funding strategy for a generation. Most of the schools were making bank off of this crap. The fallout is complex and will be felt for years to come, for decades. But the past was clear, if not easy. You'd get into your dream program, top tier physical therapy program, competitive MBA, or a prestigious law school. You'd file for your FAFSA. The school would figure out your cost of attendance. You'd get a aid packet. You take the packet, start it with the $20,500 direct unsubsidized. Then for the rest of your tuition fees, health insurance, rent, food, you would apply for the Grad Plus loan. It required a basic credit check, not for a specific score, but just to make sure you didn't have in adverse history like a recent bankruptcy. For most students, it was a reliable way to get funded. It was the silent partner in their education, and it was the tool that allowed students from a middle class family in Ohio to attend a world class engineering program in California. It enabled a single mother to go back to school to become a nurse practitioner. It was the bedrock of access to the professions. With the passage of the big beautiful bill, that bedrock has been pulverized. So this law is clear. So I want y'all to understand, after July of 26, no new grad plus loans will be issued. The plan is over. It's not going to phase out. It is just done. That means if your program starts after that date, or if you haven't borrowed a grad plus loan before then, the option just isn't there and the door is closed. You said, how long did it take you to break even? Off my student loans? Oh, that's funny. I want y'all to understand what just happened. Michael asked me the student loans that I took out, 15 years ago? He asked me, how long did it take for me to break even on my student loans? And I laughed. Oh no, oh no, I was smarter than that. He said still paying. No, fuck that. No. Okay, so this is what happened. I got them permanently deferred. Uh, I was actually still in college. This was back in 2014. I was able to talk to the loan company at the time, filled out some paperwork, got it deferred indefinitely. When my financial situation changed, I was supposed to notify the lender that my financial situation changed. If I would have ever notified the lender, they would have um, reinstated my loans. But because they sold it to somebody else owns my debt. So it is deferred indefinitely. I have $0 payments every month on my credit report on those loans forever. So even though I didn't make a bunch of money off of the investment of it, I don't owe them a dollar. They're not going to tap me on the shoulder one day and walk away with my golden toilet like they did with MC Hammer. They're not going to, snatch my car out of the front yard with a flatbed truck because I can't drive it out of here. They're not going to take any of the houses that I have or anything like that. They're not going to walk away with my firstborn because it is deferred indefinitely. That's how it is. Deferred means I ain't got to pay for it. Is it? Knock, knock. We're here to collect. Nah, because see, that's the other thing. They gotta find me first. Special shout out to Garbage. It's neither one. All right, I'm leaving now. We're streamed as usual. Be here tomorrow. Yes, sir. Because tomorrow we're gonna be talking about a ton of stocks. So make sure that you come on time tomorrow. I should be close to on time tomorrow, about 11:35 Eastern Standard Time. We're gonna be talking about a ton of stocks. So make sure that you swing back around for that. I can't say a ton of stock. I think we're going to be talking about 10 of them, but we're going to be talking about all the values and everything like that. And I'm going to be putting the stocks, the name of the stocks into the comment section. And you're going to be amazed at what stock Donald Trump owns, because that he said, don't be 5 minutes late. Money gone, bro. Well, we're doing a podcast in the middle of the night, so you got to think about the fact that you're not gonna miss out on nothing because the stock market opens at like 9:30 in the morning, so you're not gonna really miss. uh, Eric says stock market better rebound tomorrow. What? When did the stock market? Okay, so it went down late last weekend. It started going up, then it went back down again today, which was beneficial for anybody who's seen certain stocks that they wanted to buy in last week and it started going up over the weekend. Now, if you didn't already own it, remember to like and subscribe. Make sure that you guys do it. If you didn't already own the stock, now's a good time to buy in it because this might be the last time it be as low as it is before the bounce back. So you're saying, oh, it better rebound tomorrow. It ain't got to rebound tomorrow. It just got to rebound before you want to sell it. It's got to rebound before the ex-dividend day. But one thing you got to remember, Eric, is that during the week, during the middle of the month, stocks start dipping because people start relocating their money in the middle of the month. Also, uh, one thing that I've noticed is that a lot of trades happen on Thursday and Friday, and a lot of dips happen on Wednesdays and Thursdays towards the middle of the month, which is why I told you guys between the 23rd and 25th, which is like 2 days, which is going to be today's Monday, is going to be Wednesday or Thursday, where there should be a shift that not too many people are planning on, right? So that's what happened. And I think that after this weekend, you're going to start seeing a steady incline on whatever stock you're going for. Now, I don't know how that's going to play with some of the stocks that we got because we have Arbor Realty and Armor Residential. That's going to be picked up on the 15th and 16th of August over the weekend. And when stocks kind of dip right before the ex-dividend date, because it dips on Wednesday and Thursday, but then it's going to dip for the ex-dividend, and then it's going to pay out over the weekend, and you're going to be able to sell it on Monday. I don't really know how that's going to work for us, but I do know that all the rest of it is going to be fantastic. Eric says, I'm banking on a big day for that's a O, SOFI, BKSYOKLO, and QUBT. What about BBAI? Because you told us about BBAI, and I looked into BBAI, and that one is a growth stock, not a cash dividend stock, while it was at 775 when I last looked at it, which was really close to Orchid Island, even though Orchid Island was 705, and 705 per share at 12 cents a share payout every month. 705 is way cheaper than 775. But if you're not doing Orchid Island, then you're doing AGNC, and AGNC was like, last I looked at it, like 908 or 925 or something like that, which is $2 higher than Orchid Island. Also doing 12 cents a share. Still not growth stocks. They're cash dividend stocks, but those are stocks that are generating on a regular basis. And when you compare the payout rate of such low stocks in comparison to the Zim stock, actually the quarterly stock of Orchid Island and AGNC might actually pay you the same amount or more in 3 months' time, in 3 payments that you would get off of Zim stock one time off of one quarterly payment. And the difference is that the other difference that you're going to have, which is a benefit for buying and holding monthly stocks, is that if you leave it there for the 121-day period or forever, whatever, money that doesn't move doesn't get taxed. Like I told you guys before, up to $64,000 a year for head of household and $97,000 a year for married. Whereas the dividend rotation strategy would be tax regular, whatever your tax bracket is. So you're looking for a big day tomorrow. I'm guessing you're banking on a sale. Maybe you did some covered calls. Maybe you did some uncovered puts. Maybe you went for the long spread. And I can't say that that's going to happen tomorrow. Not being the 21st of the month. because being the third week of the month, this is where stocks dip right before they rise. I wasn't expecting a second dip. I was expecting the first dip to happen this coming Thursday, and a dip happened last week, Thursday and Friday. So this second dip here, yeah, that's about it. Now, depending on when you're trying to pull out, you'll see it pull out for the. But if you're trying to sell before Thursday, you might not be able to. Not without a loss. Now, one of the things I like about doing a dividend rotation strategy, if you don't pull all your money into one stock, is that if you buy into a stock and it dips too low and you don't want to take the hit, which is why you start seeing stocks dip towards the middle of the month, is that you can buy and hold until the stock goes back up and then sell it later. So if you have 50 to 75% of your income in quarterly stocks, and then you have the other 50 or 25% of your income to the dividend rotation strategy, you can split the money up amongst all of the stocks you want to buy into for the month, and then buy and hold it, let it rise, sell it after it goes up, and then put that money towards something else and keep money moving. It'll be a slower transition because instead of you buying it and selling it immediately, you buy it and sell it after it exceeds your buying rate, where you don't take a financial loss. Your percentage might be smaller on your gains over time if you're spreading your money out between 15 and 20% stocks versus 8 and 5% stocks. But so you might overall make an 8% return, but you won't be taking any losses. Now you do the roller coaster of getting in there quick while it's low and getting out as soon as the ex-dividend hits, where you're only going to, at best, lose the difference between your loss and sale and your gain and dividend. Make what you're going to make. Because with the dividend rotation strategy, you're going to make 3 times more money on rotating out quarterly stocks than what you would holding on a monthly stock. Because a quarterly stock is 3 months of payments at one time. Your monthly stock is 1 monthly payment 3 times in a quarter, clearly. So you have to ask yourself, do you want to make 3 times more over and over and over again? Because I told you guys, I found there is a quarterly stock, at least 2 or 3 of them available every single month. So you can take half your money and put it into the 3 monthly stocks that I told you guys about, which is Arbor Realty, AGNC, and Orchid Island. And then you can put the rest of your money into the dividend rotation and rotate out the quarterlies as you see fit. He said, you're right, it may be time to make the move on BBAI. Gotta take initiative. Because when we looked at BBAI is a tech company, and tech companies are being backed by government policies. So, which is what we're going to be talking about tomorrow. So BBAI being such a cheap stock, when it comes down to tech, if you invest in BBAI, and BBAI is a very good growth stock, you're going to see a substantial quantity of gain. There's no return on that one because it's a growth stock. You're going to see a substantial quantity of gain. But when you're diversifying your portfolio, you're going to have a percentage of growth stocks and a percentage of cash stocks. And that's what we were talking about at the top of the hour, was that your cash stocks need to be high enough to cover the cost of a cash loan, while your growth stocks cover the cost of the loan. So you should be able to have $100,000 or $200,000 worth of stock portfolio, where maybe 80% of it might be growth stock and 20% of it might be cash stock, or maybe it might reverse. You might have 80% of it cash stock and 20% of it growth stock, so that the 15% of the cash stock covers 100% of the cash loan. However you look at it, to benefit off of your stock option without selling your stock option to pay for assets, you want your stock option to exceed the cost of the loan that you're trying to take out. So whether you're trying to buy a new car, buy a house, buy a TV or pool in the backyard, or whatever the hell you want to do, you want to make sure that your stock option covers 100% leverage towards the loan. They're less likely to tell you no. You have a good payment history, you haven't had a bankruptcy in the last 2 years, and you have 100% capital invested towards the loan. So it is basically a subsidized loan. It is a secured loan. And since it's a secured cash loan, the investor has nothing to lose. And if you're able to leverage more stock than the value of the loan, in case the stock dips, the guy is going to get a guaranteed gain. Out of all of that, you're looking at straight up getting the cash and doing whatever you need to do with it. Can you grab the camera? No, I am not grabbing cameras. Now, I didn't get in on time when it ran last week, so there was a pullback today. Well, if there was a pullback today and it's down and you wasn't in it, then get in it. Get in it. It's different if you missed it last week, it was down, but now it's higher than you wanted it to be in. It's different if you have it and you wanted to sell and there was a pullback and now you can't sell it. But if you didn't get in it last week and there was a pullback and it's as low, if not lower than what it was last week, then get it. I just seen Zim at 1540, and today I seen Zim at 1555. I picked up Zim at 1542, 2 cents higher than what I saw it last week. Now, if for some reason that doesn't hit 1538 by Thursday, when I'm expecting that dip between Wednesday and Thursday in the next 3 days, then the buy-in that I did today, that was my goal. That was my goal. Because since I saw it at the end of business day last week, if I would have tried to get the 1540 when I saw it, it would have sold me at 1555. And then I would be panicking because right now it's at 1542. But I said, you know what? I'm going to get it at 1555 because when I first grabbed a piece of the stock, I think I grabbed like $5 or $10 of the stock. And when I first grabbed a piece of the stock, I grabbed it at 1575 earlier this month. And at 1575, I'm now holding 98% of the shares at 1542 per share. So all I needed to do is hit 1575 when I sell, and I'm getting 20 cents a share on all the stocks that I just bought this week. That's off the sale, not the 75 cents per share dividend that I'm getting off of holding it past the ex-dividend date. So you got to think about that. Now, back to the student loans, because I know that's what some of y'all came for. The law does have a so-called grandfather clause for those individuals that are about to lose that grad plus loan. But it's vital to understand how limited and frankly how useless this is for most people. The clause says that if you have an existing grad plus loan dispersed before July 1st of 2026, which is the cutoff, you can keep borrowing for up to 3 more academic years or until you finish your program, whichever comes first. On the surface, that sounds like a relief, but who does it actually help? It helps a student who is already in a multi-year program and has already taken out a grad plus loan. For example, if you started a 3-year law program in the fall of 2025 and take out a grad plus loan, you'll be able to keep borrowing for your 2nd and 3rd year. You get to finish under the old rules. But who gets left behind? Everyone else. Anyone planning to start grad school in the fall of 2026 or later is completely shut out. If you don't start getting your money come the spring of 2026, which is January of 2026, if you don't start getting that money, then you are not going to see it after that, because they have to start paying you out before July 1st in order for you to get it. Taking a gap year to work on savings and anything like that, planning to enroll in 2026, you're out of luck if you do that. The bridge is being pulled up right behind the current group of students. So the grandfather clause isn't a solution, it's a managed shutdown. It prevents chaos for students mid degree, but it does nothing to soften the blow for the millions of students coming up next. It creates a stark dividing line: those who got in just under the wire and those whose ambitions are about to hit a massive government made financial wall. The government has essentially told the next generation of graduate students, you're on your own. As we're about to see, the tools they've left behind are not nearly enough. If killing the Grad Plus loan was the first blow, the second blow is set of rigid new borrowing caps. The big, beautiful bill doesn't just take away the main funding tool, it puts a low, hard ceiling on how much you can borrow from the federal government in total. So this 1-2 punch seems designed to limit federal investing in advanced degrees, basically stopping the government from spending money on its people. If you want it, you got to go get it yourself, and the consequences will be severe. Before this law, the Grad Plus loan meant there was effectively no federal caps on borrowing for grad students, as long as it was within the school's certified cost of attendance. That flexibility was critical because education cost was very wild in depending on what college you're going to. Master's in social work is a small town scenario, and that has totally different price tags than medical degrees in New York City. So the old system handled that reality. The new one, under our One Big Beautiful Bill Act, throws that flexibility out the window. It imposes a brutal one size fits all set of borrowing limits. And let's look at the new numbers, because these will define financial reality for every future grad student. The law splits advanced degrees into two tiers: graduate and professional. For students in graduate programs, think Masters of Arts, Masters of Science, PhDs. The annual borrowing limit for unsubsidized direct loans stay at $20,500, but the law adds a new hard lifetime cap of just $100,000. And this $100,000 includes every federal loan you borrow for undergrad. So your grad degree minus your undergrad degree, 100 grand total. The average student debt for bachelor's degrees is around $30,000. That means that typically students walking into a master's or PhD program with only $70,000 of federal borrowing power eligibility left for their entire advanced degree is not enough. For a 2-year master's program costing $50,000 a year, a student will hit that cap before they even finish, leaving a massive funding gap. For a 5 or 6-year PhD program, this cap isn't a hindrance, it's a death sentence. So now for professional students, those in medicine, law, and dentistry, the law admits their costs are higher, but the help it offers is just a joke. So for these students, the new annual borrowing limit is $50,000. The new lifetime cap is $200,000, which again includes your undergrad debt. To see how devastating this cap is, let's run through a couple of real world scenarios. Case one, the aspiring doctor, say Sarah. She dreamed of being a doctor her whole life. She aced her MCATs and got into a good but not wildly expensive private medical school. The total cost of attendance is $90,000 per year for 4 years. The total cost $360,000. Sarah has already had $27,000 of loans from undergrad. Sarah, under the old system, would take out $20,500 each year in direct unsubsidized loans and cover the other $70,000 with the Grad Plus loan. She'd graduate with a lot of debt, but with a clear path to her career. Under the new law, her path is destroyed. Her annual borrowing power is capped at $50,000. In her first year alone, she faces a $40,000 funding gap. Over 4 years, the law lets her borrow at most another $173,000 before she hits her lifetime cap of $200,000, which includes her undergrad debt. The total cost is $360,000, and her maximum federal borrowing power is $173,000. That leaves her with a staggering shortfall of $187,000. Where is that money supposed to come from? Private loans, if she can even get them. These will have higher interest rates and fewer protections. Her dream of being a doctor is like being canceled. Case two, the future of a lawyer. We're going to look at David, who wants to be a public interest lawyer. He gets into school with the cost of attendance at $75,000. This is a 3-year program. It's going to be about $225,000. David has $20,000 in undergrad loans, right? Under the old system, he could fund his entire education with a federal loan, which would let him take a lower paying public service job and rely on programs like public service loan forgiveness. Under the new law, his path is also blocked. The $50,000 annual cap was leaving him at a $25,000 shortfall each year. His lifetime cap of $200,000 means he can borrow a maximum of $180,000 for law school with a total cost of $225,000. He has a funding gap of $45,000. So he'll have to turn to private loans, which often lack the protection needed for someone entering a lower paying field. The very career he wants is now exponentially harder to reach. And if that wasn't enough, the bill adds one final limit. With a total lifetime borrowing cap on a federal loan of $257,500, an absolute ceiling no matter what. The message is crystal clear. Advanced education is now a luxury, not a necessity. If you want to be a doctor, a lawyer, or a researcher, you now either need a wealthy family or you have to have a chain to yourself to the unforgiving world of private lending. Now, the ladder of opportunity has been kicked out from under the next generation. So, on paper, one of the laws that is supposed to benefit us is simplification. The current repayment system is confusing alphabet soup of plans: standard graduate, extended, save payee, IBR, HR1, sweeps all of that away and replaces it with just two plans. Supporters call it streamlining. But when you look at the details, it's not simplification, it's a brutal reduction of your options and safety nets. Again, starting on July 1st of 2026, all new borrowers will have only two choices. Plan A, the new standard repayment plan, where this plan offers a fixed monthly payment over a term that's now tied to your total debt, anywhere from 10 to 25 years. A long-term means, which is a lower monthly payment, but it also means you will pay dramatically more in interest over the life of the loan. It's a trade-off that could cost you tens of thousands of extra dollars. Plan B, a repayment assistance plan, RAP. This is the new single income driven repayment plan. It calculates your payments based on a percentage of your discretionary income, meaning spendable money. So after all of your bills, whatever you got left over that's not being taken by child support will be taken by your student loans. But the details are chilling. The repayment term under this plan is a maximum of 30 years. That's a huge increase from the 20 to 25-year forgiveness timelines under the old save and payee plans. A 30-year term means many borrowers will still be making payments into their 50s or 60s. The turns that students will have is that into 30-year mortgages on your career without a house to show for it, you will be paying tons of money on a loan. Now, the simplification of this is the trick. It hides a massive takeaway of flexibility and protection. The old system, for all its confusion, had plans for different financial situations. Payees and Save, for example, had more generous interest subsidies and shorter paths to forgiveness. All that is gone, replaced by a rigid, one size fits all plan with 3-decade timelines. But the most dangerous change that you're going to experience in the fine print starting July of 2027, 2 years from now, the big beautiful bill completely eliminates economic hardship and unemployment deferments. Let that sink in for a second. No deferments. Now, remember, I told you guys that in 2014, I got swooped into a deferment scenario where now I don't have to pay for my loan. Well, people like me don't exist anymore because come 2027, there are no deferments for years. If you lost your job, had a medical crisis, you could pause your federal loan payments for up to 3 years. If you experience any kind of short-term or long-term disability, they would defer it seemingly indefinitely, and you would have to provide them with documentation that overturns the previous deferment. It was a lifeline that gave people room to breathe without defaulting or wrecking their credit. This law cuts that lifeline. After July 1st of 2027, if you lose your job or fall behind on your payments, those payments are still due in full. If you get into a car accident and can't work for 6 months, that payment is still due. The system is becoming unforgiving. If you default on your loans, your school will no longer provide you, or the federal Pell Grant will no longer provide you with any type of financial funding until you have caught up on your loans. Even if you defer, interest continues to build. Yeah, but if you've got a loan, but actually for some reason mine stopped, mine plateaued. It's been at like 65,000 for 15 years now. So it's supposed to change, but it didn't. But mine was deferred back when it was at it was at a subsidized status. It had zero interest rates on it, so they may have just froze it at that and just didn't hit it. But typically, if you're doing between 4 and 8% on unsubsidized, and that's accruing year over year, even if it is deferred, yeah, you're going to have an increased debt on your credit score, but you're also going to see that you have a $0 payment. Your loans are in good standings. You might have to have higher levels of credit in order to offset the higher levels of debt, so that you have the debt to credit or debt to income levels give you a higher credit score. But that's not necessarily as much of a problem as the interest on a deferred loan is not as bad as garnish weightation of assets because you can't pay the loan. That's what the problem is with the no deferment scenario. If you don't pay, the U.S. government can take legal action on you to seize your assets or seize your income the way they seize child support out of your paycheck for children that you find out 18 years later ain't even yours. And you're right, that is a nightmare either way. Make sure y'all like and subscribe. Special shout out to Angelica. She's good. Better off taking a private. Bro, no, it's better off finding you a Yakuza loan shark and borrowing from them. At least they will negotiate. You want me to put how many bags into my lungs? You want me to poop out how many of these at the airport? You can work something out. You want me to drive this car where and bury what where? Not with the U.S. government, though. The U.S. government's like, fuck you, pay me. Right? And what about public service loan forgiveness? The program that forgave debt for public servants after 10 years of payments, which is technically still around. However, the law changes how you qualify for it. To make progress towards public service loan forgiveness, you have to be in a qualifying repayment plan already under the new system. For many, the only option will be the new 30-year RAP plan. This forces public service into the longest repayment track possible, where the law also includes new language to narrow the definition of qualifying public service employers, which could disqualify more organizations down the road. This isn't simplification, it's a systemic dismantling of borrower protection. The government isn't just making it harder to pay for school, it's making it more dangerous to pay the loans back. In any big law like this, proponent points to a few things like silver linings to direct from the damage. In the big beautiful bill, these are the new workforce Pell Grants and some tweaks to employer-based loan repayments. While they might help a few specific groups, they do nothing to fix the catastrophic failure that this bill creates for grad students. In fact, they reveal the administration's real priority, a shift away from traditional higher education and towards short-term job training, which is the trade school that Eric just finished talking about not too long ago. Federal loans are there to confuse you. The whole subsidized or unsubsidized is always higher interest, and you will always get a better interest rate on a private loan. Not always. Some of the loans that you get, at least in your undergrad, like I said before, can be between 4 and 8%. Private loans are typically between 10 and 15%, sometimes 24%, sometimes standard rate. Subsidized loans, even if the subsidized loan is high, let's say that the subsidized loan is at like 12.5% on the high side of things, right? But if the interest is deferred, where you have zero interest, deferment usually had for subsidized loans used to start 6 months after your last full semester. So as long as you were a part-time student, which was 6 credits or more, your interest would be deferred. You would not have interest applied to your balance. Unsubsidized, from the date they issue you the loan, even if the payments are deferred, interest would accrue for the life of the loan. Unsubsidized suck. You used to take unsubsidized when you were desperate. You take subsidized like you take out Pell Grants, because at the end of the day, if you got it at the end of the term, you could just give back the subsidized loan and owe no extra money. Unsubsidized loans, as soon as you qualify for it, you owe more than what you borrow. As soon as they give you the amount, there's extra tacked on. That's how that works. It is confusing, but not always. Back in the day, was it cheaper to go private? Now, with the repayment plan that they got going on, you would do so much better going private, because with the private lender, they're likely to put you in a loan that's going to have you with a 3 to 5 year repayment strategy, not a 30-year repayment strategy. But who's paying $100,000 for 30 years? You're not going to qualify for a house. Right now, the government loans are higher than private loans, and private can be structured to be paid back in as little as 5 years. See, we're on the same page right now. I was talking about before, back okay, so 15 years ago when I was in college, over the past like 7 years, the subsidized and unsubsidized loans offered by the universities, the Sally Mae, stuff like that, they used to be cheaper. SBA loans would like the next step after the university loans. Now shit done got so ridiculous, they privatizing everything. You would do better going to a private lender than getting a government grant or a government loan. If you can't get a free ride where somebody is paying you to take you behind the school, just offering you cash, you might as well not go. Because you could potentially get you some education offline and then buy your degree offline. Let's be real, y'all. Let's be real, y'all. Make sure y'all like and subscribe. Somebody comment, when is the last time you applied for a job and your employer asked you to show them your degree? Think about that for a second. When is the last time your employer contacted your university to confirm that you graduated? How many people went to college, didn't finish, and just claimed on their resume that they finished? Don't got the degree. And the boss never followed up on that. If you claim that you got it, you got it. I don't know, maybe law school, they might look for it. Med school, they're going to look for it. But I mean, if you're trying to be a business major, all you got to do is know how to count the books. They don't care if you went to college or not. But if you lie and say you went to Stanford, it's not like they're going to Stanford to find out. 4 years ago, had to send them a copy of my transcripts. Okay. What job did you have that required you to send in a copy of your transcripts? Because that's rare. That's rare. I've had some pretty lucrative employment scenarios, and they didn't get any kind of pay. I mean, they didn't give a damn. All they did was come in and say, hey, you look like you would do a damn good job here. And I was like, oh, you don't know the half of it. That's how it was at the end of the day. But again, there are jobs out there that put it in the job requirements that they're expecting you to have a bachelor's degree, a 4-year institution. You say a job that required a degree. I mean, but what kind of what field? You don't have to tell me exactly what company you work for, but what field was your job in? That would be because I'm just interested in which one that went looking for transcripts. That's interesting because I've never had one of those. They came back and they just asked, "Hey, have you ever been to college?" And I'm like, "Have I?" I can give you the four plan. um, Now, first, the workforce Pell Grant. I wanted to talk to you guys about that real quick. This extends Pell Grant eligibility to short-term training and certificate programs, usually 8 to 15 weeks long, for skills like welding, IT support, or medical coding, which is trade school, which is what Eric was just talking about. Real quick, hold on. I got this one snappy fella over here. You're asking me to speak English while I'm speaking English, and then you're coming back with YouTube is translating my videos. I want to be clear to everybody who is watching the show around the world, because I got to tell you, well over 200 countries are looking at me right now. And this podcast is translating in every single language that exists. So while I am speaking English, your closed captioning will be in your native language as it is set up on your profile. So to answer Yakuza's or Yosuke's or so Hanama Maria, whoever this person is, yes, it is translating for you, which helps you guys have the ability to interact with a very educational podcast that'll help you guys with investing, savings, and other such life improvement, personal improvement, relationship improvement, because around the world, whether you're in an Eastern, Middle Eastern culture or Western culture, some kind of way you have problems with shit experiencing money, problems with shit and savings money, problems with shit and investing money, problems with shitty dating practices, problems with chaos in your lifestyle, stuff that you don't like in your life that you wish that could change. And a lot of people believe that they can go to America and make that change. America is a beautiful place to come, one of the most expensive places in the world, where they believe that Americans are rich because in order for us to afford to live here, we must be making a shit ton of money. In comparison to where you live, we are balling out of control. But in comparison to where we live, we are broke as fuck. So I just want you guys to understand, yes, we are getting it across the world right now. I want every single country, Bangladesh, everybody. We're everywhere right now. So I appreciate you putting that out there. I wanted to give you specifically a heads up because definitely it is translating in every language, including English, if you have closed captioning on or subtitles turned on your profile. But I am speaking English while I'm talking to you guys. So make sure that y'all like, subscribe as y'all come through. And for actually the next like 5 minutes or so, across the top of the screen, I want to give a special shout out to all the top countries that have been watching us over the past 2 years. I want to show some appreciation to them because I really appreciate you guys for giving us love this entire time. Now, on its own, this workforce Pell Grant isn't a terrible idea. We need to support skill-based training, but in context of this bill, it signals a massive policy shift. The government is creating a small funding stream for short-term jobs while gutting the funding model for the nation's doctors, lawyers, and scientists. So for the person watching who dreams of getting a PhD in uh, biochemistry to cure cancer, the workforce Pell Grant is totally irrelevant. For the aspiring diploma who needs a master's degree, this program offers nothing. It's a policy choice that explicitly values a 10-week coding boot camp for a 4-year medical degree. This isn't a silver lining for a graduate education. It's a spotlight on the government's pivot away from it. So the second supposed benefit is making the tax exclusion for employer provided student loan repayments assistance permanent, excluding, let's say this again, excluding employer provided student loan repayment assistance permanent. Previously, employers could contribute up to $5,250 a year toward employees' student loans, tax-free for the employee. This was temporary, but the big beautiful bill made it permanent and ties the cap to inflation. Again, not a bad change. It's a nice perk for those lucky enough to work for a company that offers it. But let's be realistic. Only a small fraction of employers, usually large corporations, offer this. And the amount, $5,250 a year, is a drop in the bucket compared to the massive funding gaps that this law creates. You would be literally 1 or 2 classes a semester at most with $5,000 a year, where it just covered the class. Didn't cover the books, didn't cover the supplies, just the class. You would have to figure everything else out: standard of living, books, supplies, transportation, food, clothes, everything else. But that $5,200 a year will get you a chair in the room. So think about an aspiring doctor like Sarah. We're going to go back to her again, who's facing a $187,000 funding shortfall. The possibility that 4 years from now, she might get a job that offers her $5,250 a year in help is cold comfort. It doesn't solve her problem of how to pay the $90,000 tuition that's due right now. It's a tiny downstream solution to a huge upstream problem created by very small bills. Now, these provisions aren't silver linings. Again, they are policy distractions. They're minor initiatives used as cover for a fundamental restriction and the restructuring of who this country is willing to invest in, not the rest of us. The message is that the federal government is getting out of the business of funding advanced expertise for the millions and millions of Americans whose goal required a graduate degree. These silver linings offer no warmth and no light. So the consequences of the big beautiful bill won't be limited to personal tragedies of students who can no longer afford their dream. The impact will ripple outward, hitting our economy, our healthcare system, and our status as a global leader in innovation for decades. Where, keep in mind, H-1B1s, EBW, and I-2s are taking bachelor's and master's degree students from overseas and giving them American citizenships, where they come to America in middle-class lifestyle, middle-class credit score, able to invest and buy and work in upper middle-class employment, while born American, raised American is getting trade school, field work, blue collar, not making $3,000 a year when working wage is $2,000 a week. What? For some reason, yet again, regardless of which political position is in there, there is always a law that is shifted to not favor American people, offset by another law that offers so much more opportunity to a non-American. I don't understand it. Now, keep in mind, those folks that fly over here with their master's degree, they got their shit before they got it. So whatever they owe their original country, that's what they owe. But again, having upper middle management Americans after 2030, less likely. Having made in America workforce after 2040, unlikely. Most of the higher education is going to be outsourced from other countries getting citizenship in America, or the top 1%. People who make over $200,000 a year who can afford to put their kids through college. Individuals who invest in stocks and bonds and real estate and build generational wealth so that they can pay for their kids when their kids get 18 to 25 to go to college. But as it stands right now, with the way things are right now, no, you will get your bachelor's degree. This big, beautiful bill does not stop you from getting your undergrad. You're not going to get shit else after that, though. And right now, I think McDonald's and Winnie the Pooh at Disneyland requires a bachelor's degree. So you're going to go to a 4-year institution so that you can scrub toilets at a burger joint or put on a mascot outfit, which usually you used to get the mascot outfit at high school when you didn't qualify for the team, but you wanted to wear the jersey anyway. Just saying. Let's think about how this is a huge slap in the face. Now, this isn't just an education bill. It's a bill that will reshape the American workforce, and I would argue trigger a decline in American expertise. Now, let's start with healthcare. We already face a projected shortage of physicians and nurses. Becoming a doctor or a pharmacist requires years of experience and expensive schooling. By gutting the main funding source for these programs, this law will lead to a smaller, less diverse pool of applicants who will be able to afford medical school now, the children of the wealthy. This will shrink the pipeline of new doctors, leading to longer wait times and reduced access to care, which is adverse to the Trump phone offering the Trump plan that has the concierge doctor on call. How the hell are you going to have 24/7 on-call medical service if you're going to have less medical providers because of this bill? Especially in rural communities meaning poor neighborhoods outside of the inner city. The same chilling effect will hit the legal profession. A lot of us are going to have a lot of problems with that real ID law and the deportation effort and borderline getting rid of the habeas corpus law. Y'all are going to need some good ass lawyers around here. Law school is the gateway to becoming a lawyer and a judge or a public defender. You got to be a lawyer before you become a judge. You might have to be a public defender before you become a private lawyer, which means you might have to do public defender, private lawyer, then judge. If you can't get to the damn lawyer part, how are you going to get to the judge part? By making it financially impossible for many, we threaten the healthcare of our justice system. The number of students who can afford to pursue low-paying but critical public interest law will plummet. The diversity of our legal field will suffer. Then there's the engine of innovation, which also means, before we get into the STEM group, y'all are going to have to learn how to read, write, and work on your own legal issues. Because if everybody's going to have a public defender with the reputation of public defenders that don't know your name, don't know your case, but tell you to settle outside of your favor, that is going to be the outcome of not enough attorneys, overworked, underpaid, and completely unsatisfied with their field of choice. Now, moving on to the STEM thing. America's role as a global tech leader is built on graduate level education, which we're now outsourcing from citizenship for foreigners. The PhDs and master's graduates from our universities are the ones doing groundbreaking research, but putting a ridiculously low $100,000 lifetime cap on these students. We're actively discouraging advanced study in the fields most critical to our economic future. Other countries are pouring money into R&D, while America is telling its brightest minds they're on their own. This is a recipe for being left behind. This is a recipe for outsourcing for knowledge. This is a recipe for outsourcing for technology. This is a recipe for becoming dependent upon foreign trade. Just want to throw that out there, y'all. Which, tariffs aside, foreign trade is going to suck because that's going to cost us more money. Investments aside, foreign trade is going to be encouraged, which means your money should probably go overseas. Think about that for a second. The humanities and social sciences will be hit even harder. A PhD in history or sociology often leads to a career in academia, which isn't known for a high salary. Teachers are usually getting paid $30,000 to $50,000 a year, not much more than that. The old system made these paths viable. The new system makes a humanities PhD an act of extreme financial recklessness for anyone without family wealth. So this will lead to a hollowing out of our universities and a society that is poorer in spirit and intellect. So we're leading to a group of depressed and stupid generation, just to be clear. Hopefully not in my lifetime, but that's the direction that we're facing. Even the universities themselves face a crisis. Graduate programs are a huge part of the higher education ecosystem. So many programs will see applications collapse. They'll be forced to shrink or even close departments, hurting their finances and their abilities to conduct research. Now, what that's going to do is really destroy the Department of Education, which is what he said he was going to do, which is going to take this cash cow of private funds towards education and redirect it towards everywhere else, because nobody's going to be able to afford the overpriced education, which, might I add, should already be free. And if the average American donated money to their public school and donated money to their public college instead of paying money, bribing a prestigious private school so that their kid could be known for going to a prestigious school, you would have more money in the education system. And if you're doing it to a non-profit entity, you would be writing that off on your taxes. So it would be a double benefit. Your school would get more funding. You would get a tax cut. You're not borrowing against a stone because you're paying for your future. Because if the college is free because the entire society pays for it, then nobody's got to pay for an education. And until the government changes the bill, as long as you're paying for a 501c3 or a nonprofit entity that is government funded, you do not get taxed on that money. I don't know why nobody thinks about this shit, but I talk about it every month. Now, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act isn't a scalpel carefully trimming the fat. It's a wrecking ball, demolishing the structures that have enabled social mobility and American excellence for generations. It creates a new caste system in higher education where access is determined not by merit or ambition, but by the size of your bank account. The ripple effects will be a nation that is less healthy, less just, less innovative, and less prepared for the future. This is a systemic shift, seismically higher in the effects of education. So the road for anyone aspiring to graduate school has just been made immeasurably harder. The stories of the people affected by this, the aspiring doctors, the researchers whose plans are now in chaos, are the most powerful testaments to this law's impact. And this is why I wanted to hear from you guys. I want you guys to put your knowledge and your input into the comments. I want you guys to share your stories, because if you understand, if you are an undergrad who was planning on grad school, or if you are a working professional who hope to go back to school, how does this news affect your plans? What are your feelings and your questions? I want to keep this communication going. Let's build a community here talking about the real world impacts of this law. By sharing our stories, we can highlight the human costs and maybe start to figure out how to navigate this difficult new world together, because your voice matters. So please share it in the comment sections. The passage of the Big Beautiful Bill is a watershed moment. It's a radical break from the long held idea that the federal government should help ensure access to advanced education for a talented American, all talented Americans, regardless of their backgrounds. We've walked through the devastating details, the end of the Grad Plus loan program, the crushing new borrowing caps that create impossible funding gaps, and so-called simplifications of repayment that's really just stripping away of vital protections. The reality is this: the federal government has decided that graduate education no longer a public good worth investing, but private products for those who can afford it. That's what they're going to get. The message to the next generation of potential leaders and innovators is stark. The ladder of opportunity has been pulled up. From now on, you climb on your own or you don't climb at all. Navigating this new world will be incredibly tough. It will mean more meticulous financial planning, a greater reliance on the risky private loan market, and for many, a painful rethinking of career goals that are now financially out of reach. Every month, every week that we come to this show and we talk about ways to invest, save money, not waste on entertainment, not waste on strangers, not making it rain in the club. We're telling you to take your capital gains and put it towards your future. Invest it in places where your money will make money for you, not just to retire early, not just to quit working altogether, not just to get that vacation across the world. If you're trying to build financial stability for the next generation in your lineage, for your kids, for your grandkids, so that you can leave a starting point for them. Because if they're going to chase a $200,000 education that the government will only give $20,000 to, you need to die with $150,000 for each child that you want to go to college, placed in a trust that is only going to disperse that money to the child once they enroll in college, where that $250,000 or whatever is going to continue to grow interest until such time as the child shows enrollment to that trust. And then they will start getting guaranteed funding for their education. That is how we will break the mold. And with that, we would need to teach generational responsibility, meaning stipulations of your trust is that certain parameters have to be in place. They are going to have maybe health insurance policies that are paying as beneficiaries to the trust so that there's money in the pot for the next generation. If somebody passes on, that pays into the pot so that the grandkids of the grandkids of the grandkids, like the Rockefellers, got something to fall back on. You have to start it now. What do you want to see for your kids, for your grandkids, for the future of your family name, for the future of your bloodline? You got to start thinking about what is next. YOLO, living for the moment, is dead. You now need to live for tomorrow. The church has always preached to you guys to do what you got to do for your afterlife. I'm going to preach to you guys to do what you got to do for your next year. Do what you got to do for your next decade. Do what you got to do for your kids' first 10 years of adulthood, because that is where your money is supposed to be going right now. Because the way this country is changing, if you do not put together some kind of generational wealth, where you're the first generation of generational wealth, and your kids and your grandkids and your great grandkids who need to learn from you before you pass it on how to be fiscally responsible with this wealth, you are going to leave a legacy of failure. That will leave a legacy of failure. We used to cross over financial barriers, social statuses, coming out the low income environments, going to college, making it in middle class America. With the way things are changing right now, if you started in a lower class environment, if you don't have a free ride, and then that undergrad degree gets you a second free ride, loans are not going to get you there. Not anymore. The American dream has always been tied to the idea that with education and hard work, you can achieve your potential. Today, the government has placed a price tag on that dream, and for millions of future graduate students, it's a price they simply can't afford. So I want you guys to really think about that going forward. I want you guys to make sure that you guys like and subscribe. Make sure that you guys join the membership. Make sure that you come back every day of the week. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about ways to invest. We're going to be talking about growth stocks tomorrow. I'm going to be putting comments into the comment section so that you guys can see the stocks that needs to be invested in as far as growth stocks. Next week, Tuesday, we're going to be talking about the stocks that we're using in a dividend rotation strategy. You guys need to start showing up and getting this information, doing your own research, finding places to put the money that you would normally waste on bullshit, and now redirect it towards something of value. Because while healthcare benefits are changing, privatizing, Social Security is not benefiting that much anymore, everything is changing. He says broke people should just earn millions so they can give it to the next generation. Easier said than done. 9 times out of 10, if you're born poor, you'll stay poor. Well, that's only because poor people that are born poor stay poor, specifically because they don't know how to save. They don't know how to spend. They don't know how to redirect their discretionary money to something more valuable. We do not have generational knowledge. We do not have what they call the good old boys club, where you're being groomed for success. You're born in a poor neighborhood. You're taught how to survive. You're taught how to fight. You're sometimes taught how to kill, but you're not taught how to spend money wisely. You're taught how to wear Jordans. You're taught how to wear Louis Vuitton. You're taught how to wear Rocawear. You're taught how to spend $50,000 on a necklace around your neck so that it can be snatched off by somebody who couldn't afford that necklace. But you're not taught how to put that money somewhere where that money will make money for you. You're taught how to sit on a corner, and you're taught how to praise the guy with the Honda Civic sitting on 32-inch rims that cost them $6,000 with tires that cost $800 a tire. Rubber band tires hit one rock on the road. Now you got a flat, and your run flats only go for 50 miles. But they won't teach you how to put that money towards something of value. Okay, you got G-Wagons that you're riding around in. You've got BMWs. You got S-Class this. You got luxury that. And all we're doing is teaching ourselves and teaching our kids and teaching our grandkids how to waste money. That's what it is. Exactly. Groomed to be poor. That's exactly what we're being groomed to be poor. Young cats right now, they ripping out all the good teeth and putting fake gold, or well, real gold teeth in their mouth. For what? Why are you putting $10,000 worth of metal in your mouth when you have perfectly good teeth in your mouth? Why are you wasting money on things you don't need? And with all the money that anybody on the show right now today, if you think about in your lifetime, all the shit that you put your money towards that really you didn't have to put your money on, and then ask yourself, how much money have you wasted since you were 18? And then think about, had somebody gave you the information that you needed, that money probably would have went somewhere else where your life wouldn't suck right now. He said, fix the world then. Special shout out to Level. That's what this podcast is going to try to do, because we're broadcasting over 200 countries around the world right now. Is that I was taught to be capable of balancing my finances and knowing what bills are important. Now, nowhere in there where they told you how to live at 30% of your income and then take the other 70% of your income and turn a profit off of that. They only taught you how not to overdraft your checking account and how to pay your bills on time, which is what most people are taught. You learn that you got to make money to spend money, and you can only spend the money that you make. And when you run out of money, you go back to work to make money. That's what you're taught. But nobody ever teaches you that you can take the money that you make and put it somewhere where the money is making money. You can eventually stop working for somebody else and live off of the money that's making money so that you don't have to work anymore. But you could keep working and have two incomes, one from the money that you made and one from the money that you're working for, which is twice as much money. And this is before you add a second person to the fold that has the same knowledge doing the same thing, where you have four incomes. Your money, his or her money, your paycheck, his or her paycheck. Where four incomes in one household could be a millionaire in 5 years. Because they're groomed to be poor by their parents. Luxury isn't important. Survival is. You're right. But how many kids are taught about survival skills when their parents are buying them a Gucci outfit before they're old enough to speak? I mean, we complained about unification of earnings is freedom. Unification of earnings is communism. It's the communist model, which is also the Star Trek model, the unification of earnings. But we teach our kids how they got to go buy name brand. The brand is too important to the adult that the child idolizes the brand. But the quality of the brand is no better than the quality of the item with no brand on it. You're paying 3 to 10 times more for the brand. A watch is a watch, but a Rolex is $50,000. A quartz watch is $50, $10. The brand. That's what you're paying for. And we don't teach our kids the value of spending. We do not teach our kids inflation. We do not teach our kids the value of discretionary funds. We do not teach our kids the value of emergency funds. We do not teach our kids value. We teach our kids how to show off, how to show out, how to look rich by being poor. We don't teach our kids how to be rich by looking poor. But if you notice, all the millionaires look poor. All the poor people look rich. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that poor people try so hard to look like they got something that they go broke doing it? And rich people save so much money by not giving a shit about what other people think, and wear what needs to be worn and use what needs to be used to get by. And everything else is reinvested. No money is spent. If it doesn't make dollars, doesn't make sense. They also line themselves up to a core belief that they must have 3 to 10 times more capital available than the purchase they're about to make. So if they're about to buy a $50,000 vehicle, they're going to have over $150,000 of discretionary funds available, which also means that if they can't buy it cash up front, they're not going to buy it because they're either going to lease it under the business, buy it cash up front, or walk. They're not going to finance it because that's a waste of money. Same thing with a house. They only finance a house when they're flipping it. They buy the house cash up front with a cash loan that's paid for by the dividends from the stock option, which is why I keep telling you guys about it. Where that direction of travel is a tax deduction on the dividends from the stock option, where the deed to the house is not tied up. If the stock market crashes, the loan is taken up by the stock. They cancel each other out, but you keep the house, you keep the car. You separate your assets from your debt. You separate yourself from your assets. So can't nobody take legal action against you and take your shit because you're just borrowing the shit. Own nothing, control everything. But if you start learning how to do that, guess what? Now you don't have probate costs because instead of your kid receiving your house, beneficiaries of your trust receive access to the assets of the trust. There's no transition of ownership there. It's just transition of beneficiaries. Y'all got to think about these things. We talk about this kind of stuff every day of the week, different times during the show, and we give you guys different pointers and different tips. But as y'all see, this is the first year of change that is going since Obama. This is the first year of change. And this is the type of drastic change that poor America will drastically change from. And I can't guarantee that every change is going to be for the better. But if you do not take advantage of your opportunities while they are here to invest in a better future in the next 10 years, if you're 30 and 40 years old, and you're not investing in your next 10 years, when you're 40 and 50 or 50 and 60 years old, you're going to be watching this podcast regretting the fact that you didn't listen. But I'm going to be sitting there counting ducats telling you I told you so. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. Now, with that being said, I want to thank you guys for coming to the show. Ladies, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to keep asking you ladies to make it make sense. So ladies, please make it make sense. Fellas, this is a male-driven podcast from the male's perspective. We got about 75% followers of the male's position, and we do this to help you guys become higher value men. However, this is not exclusive to the men. Ladies, y'all can take this information and use it to make yourselves higher value women, because everything that's happening in society right now is happening to all of us. That's just fact. So with that being said, I want to thank you guys for coming to the show. Thank you for coming to This and That, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. I'm your host, Xander, and I'm going to see you guys tomorrow night about 11:40 Eastern Standard Time. But I'm going to be here tomorrow night. Have a good night.
Chase validation, now I validate. That's my personal command. I'm not mounted on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never yield.